All right, so apparently the future of Overwatch Esports. So we finally got some news. Obviously, Overwatch League died a long time ago. Even though they didn't officially announce it, it died a long time ago. So it's good to hear we got some kind of news on what they're doing. I glanced through this, but I didn't really take the time to understand what they were saying it is. I just glanced over to see if there's any like big stuff I need to take a look at. Oh, by the way, 69 comments. Let's go. Should we, chat, do we ruin that or no, right? No, we keep, no. We keep that. So the new Overwatch Esports ecosystem. Overwatch is a competitive game at its core. It's fast, dynamic, and at its best when two closely matched teams are battling it out for victory. Man, I haven't gotten to experience that in a few months. Our goal as a development team is to ensure that all of our players have the opportunity to experience the thrill of competition, which I will say, team play in Overwatch is probably some of the most fun video gaming you'll ever do. So I'm kind of glad to see that they're bringing this back a little bit. I know I'm kind of blocking it. Here, let me move this over here. Yeah, so I'm glad they're bringing back like the or at least trying to encourage people to experience like team play more often. I know they did that with like the team queue, but it just wasn't viable. It just didn't work like they wanted it to. Especially with the queue times. I mean, an hour and a half queue time for that? Dude, come on now. So, today we're excited to talk about what is next for Overwatch Esports. Our philosophy moving into our next chapter of Overwatch Esports is simple. Offer and cultivate an esports ecosystem that is more open, with anyone able to participate, always on, regionally focused, and providing experiences for participants and fans alike. Which is all fine and dandy. I mean, that sounds great, but it's a little bit more difficult to execute this. So this being a goal is great, but I would like to see what they're going to do to actually accomplish that. Because they could have said the same thing when they rolled out Team Q, you know? They could have said that was the goal with that, and that just flopped completely. So even though this sounds great, it's really going to come down to whether they can execute on that or not. Overwatch 2 is a game for everyone, and we want to ensure that anyone who has the skills is able to showcase them. Basically saying we're going to try to reduce the barriers for people to basically work their way up in the esports ecosystem. It's not going to be locked to like what we had before, where we had like tier 4 and then tier 3 and then tier 2 and then tier 1, where it's like you kind of have to like audition for each, or not audition, sorry. You have to try out for each tier. Like, yeah, your tier 4 teams, which is like the collection of like people that are starting to get into it. And then the tier 3 teams are the people in like open division that are like the top 20, top 25 teams. Those are like your tier 3, which is like really good players that are fighting for contender spots. And then contenders, obviously we're all fighting for basically just to win, so they could get become agents and get drafted into Overwatch League, or replace an Overwatch League team completely if they're able to fight their way into it. It was just a long process, kind of daunting, a lot of barriers, a lot of having to know the right people. And especially for esports, when most esports people aren't really that great at socializing, especially the ones that are really, really good at this game, they're probably not that great at rubbing elbows with the right people to get on the right teams. So anything to open that up, I think will be good for the game, especially for players that just want to show how good they are, and how like, especially our teams that can show how good they are and win their way in the rankings. With that said, we are excited to introduce our new esports programs, the Overwatch Champions series. Make sure it's not. We got to make sure that's not trademarked by Dr. Disrespect. Our esports efforts in 2020. Wouldn't that be crazy, bro? If Overwatch collabed with Dr. Disrespect on a tournament series, that actually I feel like would pop off. Our esports series in efforts in 2024 will be multifaceted. The first program that we're excited to introduce to you all is the Overwatch Champions series. The OWCS is our new premier international competitive circuit, open to players across North America, Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. Oh, so does this not include wow, this doesn't include like Australia, like the Oceania? Okay. Interesting. I mean, I know it's not as popular or like as played over there, but man, they really just cut off entire regions here. So only NA, Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. Interesting. The 2024 season will feature multiple competitive stages, where each region will have its own set of open qualifiers, giving players the ability to form their own teams and battle it out for their place in the main event. The stages will culminate in 2 live in-person international events, bringing the regions together for the pinnacle of Overwatch play on the largest stage ever for Overwatch Esports. Let's dive into how each region will function. So this is a map for a region. So the week 1, it looks like you have your rounds. So I think each round is it takes all the teams that are wanting to qualify, and you play your round 1, round 2, round 3 on one day, and then your round 4, round 5, 6 on the next day, and 7, 8, and 9 on Sunday. So a team, if they're wanting to compete, will have to play 9 games in a weekend. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a team will have to compete in all 9 of them, is at least what I'm taking from this. And then moving on to week 2, qualifier for the Swiss stage. Okay, so you have to qualify for the Swiss stage. So these are the qualifiers. If you qualify, and we don't really know what it takes to qualify yet, but you have to qualify to make it into the Swiss stage. And then the Swiss stage is going to be broken up into groups A, B, C, and D that'll play across 2 weeks. Now, we don't know what days these are going to take place on. I assume these will probably take place, because this is going to take place on the group stage. So this might be broadcasted, I believe. So this will be probably broken up into different days for 2 weeks that you'll have to play into this. And then the people that qualify in the Swiss round will move on to week 4, which is the main event, where it's 8 teams that have, it looks like, double eliminations. So the group A, 1 and 2, the group B, 1 and 2, the group C, 1 and 2, and then the group D, 1 and 2 are all competing. So even if you're not, you either have to get number 1 or number 2 in your group. Those that get 3rd or 4th in their group out of those teams. Okay, so it looks like only 16 teams are going to move on to the qualifier, the group stage Swiss circuit. So 16 teams. That makes sense, right? Because these are all the teams. So only 16 teams for each region are going to move on to the Swiss stage. And then of those 16, half of them are going to move on to the final week bracket, where they'll have 8 teams that'll compete for the top spot of that region. So only 1 team per region gets to move on after, like, the main event, or like to win their region. So essentially you're gonna have several champions per region. So, or sorry, one champion per region is what's gonna be that's gonna take this top spot. So in NA and EMEA, teams will participate in 4 competitive stages throughout the year alongside our 2 international Overwatch Champions Series events. Each stage will feature an online open qualifier and a main event where players can earn circuit points, which are used to determine international event qualification. So I believe in this, so you can earn credits playing in this to be used for international event qualifications. So this is your regional tournament, and then you earn credits to be used to qualify for international events that'll be featured probably where teams play against each other internationally. Players can earn circuit points through top finishes in each of these stages. The more points a team earns, the higher they're standing on the leaderboards and seeds going into each event. The Overwatch Champion Series stages in NA and EMEA will feature 3 unique tournament phases. Yeah, the Swiss, the groups, and the main event. The open qualifier will contain the Swiss phase alongside groups, which qualifies teams to the main event. The Swiss phase will host a maximum of 512 teams. So 500, like we explained earlier, 512 teams, that's a maximum. And then only 16 teams are going to make it into groups. This is kind of like, this is like tier 4. And then this is like tier 3. And then the groups bracket is like contenders, essentially. So these 16 teams will compete in groups of 4, with the top 2 teams from each group advancing to the main event, which we consider like Overwatch League, the premier for the region. At our 8-team double elimination regional tournament, all run through our partners at Faceit. So, for example, this is the Asia format, which looks a little bit different. Yeah, this looks different. So, for example, Asia's going to have their tier 4 online open. Okay, they actually are just straight up saying it, like tier 1, tier 2. Okay, got it. Okay, so for the Asia format, tier 4 online open qualifiers, which I believe is probably the same thing where they have 512 teams that qualify for the tier 3 regional championship for each sub-region. But this one's okay, so it's not 16. So there's 9 teams for the for Korean, 9 teams for Japan, 8 teams for Pacific, and then 3 teams round robin for the whatever wild card online is. So all those teams will play, and then the top 8 teams. So the top 3 from this one will move on. Top 2 from this one from Japan. Top 2 from Pacific. Top 1 from Wildcard will move on to their Asia Championships, where those 8 teams will play. This is basically the same as the NA one. So those 8 teams will play and then move on to, looks like, the Overwatch Champion Series International DreamHack. So this is the International Championship, where I assume they're going to be playing against all the other regions to move on to that one. We are thrilled to be partnering with DreamHack, with their festivals having served as epicenters for competitive gaming for many years. Incredibly excited to bring some of our biggest Overwatch esports moments to the stage. Yada, yada, yada. The first international event, the Overwatch Champion Series Major, will be at DreamHack Dallas on May 31st. That's already coming up quick, dude. Our season finals this year will also do something. So this isn't a bad idea, man. So essentially what Overwatch has done. Here's the full calendar, by the way. And it looks like they're doing 2 rounds of what we just explained. So they have the majors and the finals. What they did essentially was completely remove their in-house overhead to run these events, and now they're essentially just doing the qualifiers and like all the competing and everything online until they get to the group stages, where they will broadcast the group stages. I assume this will probably maybe still be in-house, perhaps. Or at least at like regional things, right? Like your region centers, wherever they're going to be casting them from. And then they're going to have a big end thing at DreamHack in May. And then in November, I assume they'll probably do another thing at DreamHack in November. So they're essentially saying, we're going to do this kind of similar to how a lot of other competitive games do it, where they do these qualifiers and everything, and then they have the events at these like big events that are happening, and they just have the finals there, which honestly, not a bad idea. It's going to save them a lot of money. Obviously, they still have to pay quite a bit to like have these events hosted, but it's going to save them a lot of money in overhead to run these, instead of running these things in-house where they have to incur all the costs. They can leverage these costs a little bit more for these big festivals and stuff that already have these things set up, already have all the facilities in place, where they can just basically just show up and have like an events coordinator and put this thing on for a lot less money. It's smart. It's smart. I think it's setting it up for long term. They're scaling it back. Obviously, they're not trying to be the NFL of esports like they were trying to be. They're kind of just coming in. They're kind of getting into the fold of esports. And this is because that's essentially what it is. They're just scaling it back, and then they're just saying, hey, we're just going to do it what's tried and true, what works for a lot of esports circuits. That's what we're going to do. So I think it's a good start. I think it's going to make Overwatch Esports more viable financially. And hopefully that means we can actually pay players more, or, like people that spend their whole lives competing for this, like actually maybe get some like decent paychecks for these kids that are, putting 14-hour days in 7 days a week. So not bad. I like it. I'm down with it. Spooki, the Overwatch Pro. I will not be. I'll probably compete if we can as like our team, but we're not gonna make it. I doubt we even make it onto. Well, we definitely don't. We definitely don't make it past this. The week 1 qualifiers. No. A, I'm too old. B, I don't have enough experience. C, I don't care enough to actually make it into the Swiss round robin.